It's the end of the year. So often at this time of the year, we're exhausted, we're tired, we feel like we can't even make it to our Christmas celebrations. But I want to share with you the 5 W's of Matthew 11 and look at what the context is, what it was meant for, and how it applies to our lives today. Let's read it in the Message Bible. Matthew 11:28 says, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace, and I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." In other translations, Jesus says, "Take my yoke." And in this, we understand that it may be referring to oxen's yoke, that Jesus didn't want to put anything heavy or ill-fitting on us. But actually, in the custom of those days and the context that Matthew 11 is talking about, it's actually talking about a rabbi's yoke. A rabbi's yoke was what the rabbi wanted them to learn and his interpretation of the Torah or the law. If we understand it, the disciples had to take on the rabbi's yoke in terms of what he was doing, what he interpreted, what his view of the law was. They had to memorize it, they had to follow him, they had to do everything that the rabbi was doing. In fact, they literally had to imitate the rabbi's ministry model. And that's what Jesus was talking about when he was calling his disciples. He was saying, "Come and get my yoke, my way of interpreting the Bible," or in those days, the law. "Come and see how I do things." And when he makes the statement, which is our first W today, "Are you worn out?" He was warning them that when you live by the law, when you're interpreting the scriptures based on a do good, get good, or you have to prove yourself by doing religious works in order to be accepted, you are going to be worn out. So often in counseling, I have people come to me and say, "I can't do any more. What I'm doing is not good enough," or "I feel I'm not doing enough." That is how we get worn out. When we take on a yoke or a way of teaching that says in order to feel accepted and loved, we have to do. But Jesus is saying that was not my intention. That's not what I want you to do. He says take on my yoke, to know that what he did at the cross, he accomplished great things. He took on the law for us, that we may live in the freedom knowing we are accepted by Jesus. Look at this beautiful scripture. In Ephesians 2 verse 8-9 it says, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast." In Romans 4 verse 1 it says, "What then shall we say that Abraham, our forefather, according to the flesh, has found? For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about it, but not before God. For what does the scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness." So our first W, are you feeling worn out? Have a check. Are you trying to do things to gain God's approval or man's approval? And this morning, just take a rest. Put on his teaching that he has accomplished everything at the cross. He chose to do all the work for us, that we can step into him and receive the rest, acceptance, and love that we need. Meditate on that today as you remember you are highly favored and deeply loved.